If you're listening to this, I hope you'll stick around and maybe let me know where you're tuning in from. My name is Eleanor Ramsey, and what I'm about to tell you is the hardest story I've ever had to share. Picture this: a crisp autumn morning in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The leaves blazing red and gold, the air sharp against your skin. I was standing on a rocky ledge, my heart still racing from the climb, when my son-in-law, Nathan Caldwell, leaned in close and whispered, "Say goodbye to the view." Then he pushed me, hard, over the edge of a cliff. My own daughter, Lauren, just stood there, her face blank, as I plummeted toward the rocks below. Their plan? To steal the $2 billion fortune my late husband, James, and I had built from our fashion empire. They thought they'd gotten away with it. But when they walked into their house that evening, I was waiting, sitting in my old leather armchair, with a very special surprise. Let me take you back to how a simple hiking trip turned into the moment my world shattered. At 70, I thought I knew what family meant. I thought blood was thicker than greed. I was wrong, dead wrong, but I'm getting ahead of myself. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people you love most, or if you've ever wondered how far someone would go for money, this story is for you. It's about losing everything you thought you knew, and finding something stronger in its place. So, let's start at the beginning, that perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, when I still believed my daughter loved me. Let me take you back to that Tuesday morning, before everything fell apart. I woke up in my condo in Richmond, Virginia, the place I'd moved to after James, my husband of 40 years, passed away. It's been 3 years since he left me, and sometimes I still expect to hear his laugh in the kitchen, teasing me about burning the toast. James and I built a fashion empire together, Ramsey Couture, a chain of high-end boutiques that dressed everyone from senators' wives to Hollywood starlets. When he died, he left me $2 billion in assets, and a hole in my heart that no money could fill. I thought passing on the family legacy would bring me closer to my daughter. Lauren. I was wrong. Lauren was always my pride and joy, my only child. Growing up, she'd sketch dresses with me at the dining table, dreaming of taking over the business one day. But after she married Nathan 5 years ago, something changed. She grew distant, colder. Nathan, a slick-talking financial consultant with a smile that never reached his eyes, was always around, asking questions about the business, the trusts, the estate. I brushed it off. Family, I told myself, is supposed to ask about those things, care about the future, right? 6 months ago, I had a scare, a mild heart attack that landed me in the hospital for a week. Lauren and Nathan were there every day, bringing flowers, signing paperwork, saying they'd handle everything while I recovered. I was so grateful, too grateful. Maybe I didn't question why they insisted on managing my accounts or why my financial advisor started dodging my calls. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. But at 70, after a lifetime of trusting my daughter, I wanted to believe she still loved me. So when Nathan called, not his assistant, but Nathan himself, inviting me for a hiking trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains, I was thrilled. "Eleanor, let's celebrate your recovery," he said, his voice smooth as silk. Just the 3 of us. Like old times, a family day. I hadn't heard Lauren sound that warm in years. It felt like a chance to rebuild what we'd lost. I packed my hiking boots, put on the emerald green scarf James always loved, and drove to the trailhead, my heart lighter than it had been in months. The mountains were breathtaking that morning, the kind of beauty that makes you feel small but alive. Nathan led the way, chatting about the view, while Lauren trailed behind, quiet, her eyes fixed on the ground. I thought she was just tired. I didn't notice how Nathan kept glancing at her, or how they'd chosen a trail with no other hikers, no guide. I didn't think twice when they suggested we stop at a scenic overlook, a narrow ledge with a sheer drop to the valley below. I was too busy breathing in the crisp air, too busy believing my family wanted me there. That was my mistake, and it nearly cost me everything. Standing on that rocky ledge, with the Blue Ridge Mountains stretching out below me, I felt alive for the first time in months. The wind tugged at my scarf, and I was smiling, thinking how proud James would have been to see me out here, hiking again after my heart scare. Lauren and Nathan stood a few feet away, their faces unreadable. I should have noticed the way they kept exchanging glances, the way Nathan's hand lingered near his backpack. But I was too caught up in the moment, too caught up in the idea that my daughter was finally coming back to me. Then Nathan spoke, his voice sharp, cutting through the wind. Eleanor, we need to talk about the estate. I turned, confused. Estate? Out here? He pulled a folder from his backpack, stuffed with legal papers, the trust, the business accounts. It's all so complicated, he said, his smile tight. We've been worried about you since the heart attack. You're not yourself anymore. My stomach twisted. Not myself? I was hiking a mountain at 70. Sharper than most people half my age. Lauren stepped closer, holding her phone at an odd angle, like she was taking a selfie but aiming it at me. Mom, we've got doctor's reports, she said, her voice flat. They say you're showing signs of memory loss. Confusion. It's for your own good if we take over the finances now. I stared at her, my daughter, the girl I'd raised to be kind. To be honest, Lauren, I said, my voice shaking, what are you talking about? I'm fine. That's when Nathan's mask dropped. Fine or not, Eleanor, it's time to simplify things. He held out the papers. A pen clipped to the top. Sign these, and we all go home happy. It transfers the trust to us. For your protection. Protection? My heart pounded, not from the hike, but from the cold realization washing over me. They were trying to steal everything James and I had built. I set the papers down on a rock. I'm not signing anything, I said, my voice steady despite the fear creeping in. Let's go back to the car. Lauren's eyes narrowed, and Nathan laughed, a short, ugly sound. I'm afraid that's not an option. Eleanor, Lauren spoke then, her words like ice. Accidents happen on these trails all the time. Mom, an elderly woman, weak heart, slips and falls, it's tragic. But no one will question it. Before I could respond, Nathan moved behind me. Say goodbye to the view, he whispered, and then his hands were on my shoulders, shoving me hard. I stumbled, my boots slipping on the loose gravel. And over I went, tumbling into the void. The world spun, sky, rocks, trees blurring together. I heard Lauren's voice, faint and cold. Make sure no one sees. Then the wind swallowed everything. I thought I was dead. I should have been, but somehow, my scarf caught on a jagged branch, and I landed in a tangle of thick underbrush. Not the rocks below. My body screamed, bruises, scratches, a sharp pain in my ankle, but I was alive. Gasping, I lay there, the cold seeping through my jacket, trying to process what had just happened. My own daughter, my little girl, had stood there while her husband tried to kill me. That's when I heard voices above, not Nathan or Lauren, but someone else. Down there, I see something. A woman's face appeared through the branches, weathered and kind, her gray hair tied back. Clara Thompson, a 60-year-old former nurse leading a hiking group, didn't hesitate. She and her team scrambled down, pulling me from the bushes, wrapping me in a thermal blanket. What the hell happened, ma'am? Clara asked, her eyes sharp with concern. My teeth chattered too hard to answer fully. My family, I manage. They pushed me. Clara's face hardened. We saw a couple hightailing it down the trail. Didn't even look back. What kind of people leave their own mother to die? The kind who want $2 billion. I thought, but I couldn't say it out loud. Not yet. Clara radioed for help, but I grabbed her arm, my voice desperate. Please, don't tell anyone I survived. Not yet. She studied me, her eyes narrowing, and I knew she saw more than just a shaken old woman. You're in trouble, aren't you? She asked. I nodded. The kind that doesn't end unless I make it. Clara didn't flinch. Then let's get you somewhere safe. And that's when I decided, I wasn't going to die. Not today. Not like this. I was going to fight, and make them pay for what they'd done. Lying in that tangle of bushes, bruised and shivering, I realized something. Being left for dead changes you. It strips away the illusions you've clung to. Like the idea that your child could never hurt you. But it also lights a fire. I wasn't just Eleanor Ramsey, the grieving widow, anymore. I was a survivor, and I was angry. Clara Thompson, the nurse who'd pulled me from the brink, drove me to a small bed and breakfast in a quiet corner of Virginia, owned by a woman named Ellen Harper. Ellen was 65, with a no-nonsense stare and a warm laugh that made you feel safe. You look like you've been through hell, honey, she said, handing me a mug of chamomile tea. Stay as long as you need. No questions asked. I sat in her guest room that night, wrapped in a borrowed sweater, my ankle throbbing, my mind racing. Lauren and Nathan thought I was dead. They'd be back at their house, my old house. The one James and I had filled with laughter and dreams, planning how to cash in on my fortune. I could have gone to the police. But something told me this was bigger than a single betrayal. I needed answers. I needed proof. And I needed to make sure they never saw me coming. Clara sat with me the next morning, her hiking boots still muddy from the rescue. "What's your next move?" she asked. I took a deep breath. I need to know why. Why my daughter would do this. And how far they're willing to go. That's when Ellen chimed in from the kitchen doorway. "You need a professional. Someone who can dig without leaving tracks." She knew a guy, Tom Rivera, a retired cop turned private investigator, who owed her a favor from years back when she'd helped his brother out of a legal mess. Tom showed up that afternoon. A wiry man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a notepad that looked like it had seen 100 cases. I told him everything, about the cliff, the papers, the way Lauren's face stayed cold as I fell. He listened, scribbling notes, not interrupting once. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "Sounds like they've got a plan. And it's not their first rodeo. People don't pull stunts like this without practice." His words sent a chill down my spine. Practice? What did that mean? Tom started digging, and I stayed hidden at Ellen's, poring over old family photos, trying to piece together when Lauren had changed. I remembered the day I signed over the Virginia mansion to her, thinking it would keep our family close. James and I had hosted garden parties there, watched Lauren grow up in those halls. Now it was theirs, and I was starting to suspect they'd been playing a long game. 2 days later, Tom came back with news that hit like a punch. "Your daughter and son-in-law aren't working alone," he said, spreading photos across Ellen's kitchen table. Pictures of Lauren and Nathan meeting with a woman in a sleek pantsuit outside a law office in Richmond. "This is Abigail Foster, an estate lawyer who specializes in helping families inherit early. She's got a reputation for making inconvenient relatives disappear." My heart sank. Disappear? How many others had there been? Tom kept going. "They've been documenting your mental decline for over a year. Doctor visits where they coached you to seem confused. That heart attack? They swapped your meds to make you dizzy. Then filmed you stumbling at a family dinner, claiming it was dementia." I remembered that dinner, Lauren insisting I try a new wine. Nathan holding his phone just so. I thought they were being attentive. They were building a case against me. But then came the twist. The one that turned my world upside down all over again. Tom slid a photo across the table, a picture of a little boy, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls and my husband's eyes. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Tom's face softened. "His name's Ethan. He's your grandson, from your son. Michael, my son, who'd died in a car accident 6 years ago. Before he could tell us he'd had a child. Lauren had known about Ethan, but she'd kept him a secret, leaving him with a distant cousin in Maryland. Why hide him? I asked, my hands trembling. Tom's voice was grim. Because they're planning to use him. If you're out of the picture, they can claim Ethan as their adopted son, the legitimate heir to your fortune. It makes their story airtight, grieving parents raising their nephew after a tragic accident. I stared at the photo. Ethan's innocent face staring back. My grandson, hidden away like a pawn in their game. Rage burned through me, hotter than anything I'd felt on that cliff. They weren't just after my money. They were using a child, my flesh and blood, to seal their lies. I pushed the photo back to Tom. "We need to get into my old house," I said. "There's got to be evidence of what they're planning." Ellen frowned. "That's risky. They're living there now, aren't they?" I shook my head. "Not according to the property records. They kept their own place in the city. The mansion's been empty since I moved out. But someone's paying the utilities. Someone's keeping it ready." Tom nodded. "Sounds like a staging ground. Let's find out what they're hiding." That night, Clara drove me to the mansion under cover of darkness. I still had my key. Lauren had never asked for it back. Slipping through the back gate felt like breaking into my own past. The house smelled different, like new paint and expensive cologne. The living room was draped in sheets. But I noticed new furniture, a velvet sofa, A flat screen that cost more than a car. In the kitchen, the fridge was stocked with gourmet food. Not the basics you'd keep for an empty house. Someone was using this place regularly. In James's old study, I found what I was looking for, a locked drawer, which I pried open with a letter opener. Inside was a folder labeled Ramsey Plan. My hands shook as I flipped through it, a timeline of my supposed decline. Fake medical reports, photos of me looking confused at that dinner. A letter from Abigail Foster, signed AF, urging them to accelerate the timeline because I was asking too many questions about the trust. And there, buried at the bottom, was a birth certificate for Ethan, listing a mother who'd vanished after giving birth. Lauren and Nathan had tracked him down, paid off the cousin, and were preparing to claim him as their own. I photographed everything with a disposable camera Tom had given me, my heart pounding. Then I heard a car pull into the driveway. Headlights swept across the windows. Lauren's voice, sharp and nervous. "We need to make sure the papers are ready for Abigail tomorrow." I slipped out the back door, clutching the camera, and hid behind the rosebushes James and I had planted decades ago. That's when I heard it, a child's voice, sleepy and small, from inside the house. "Mommy, when can I go home?" Ethan, my grandson, was in there, and he didn't belong to them. I crept back to Clara's car, my mind made up. I wasn't just fighting for my life anymore. I was fighting for his. Finding out about Ethan changed everything. He wasn't just a pawn in Lauren and Nathan's game, he was my grandson. The last piece of my son Michael, the boy I'd lost 6 years ago. That night, hiding behind those rosebushes, hearing his small voice call out for a home he didn't have. I made a promise, I'd protect him, no matter what it took. But to do that, I needed to face the people who'd tried to kill me and the woman pulling their strings. Tom Rivera, my private investigator, had been busy. He'd tracked Lauren and Nathan's movements since they thought I was dead. They were meeting with Abigail Foster, the estate lawyer, to finalize the transfer of my $2 billion fortune. Tom had a hunch Abigail was more than just a greedy lawyer. And he was right, but I'm getting ahead of myself. First, I needed to shake them up, make them doubt their perfect plan. So, while they were out playing the grieving family, I had Clara deliver a note to their lawyer's office, written on my old monogrammed stationery. It read, "Dear Lauren and Nathan, reports of my death are a bit exaggerated. We need to talk. Take good care of Ethan. He's family. Love, Mom." Tom was parked across the street from Abigail's office in Richmond when the note arrived. He said Lauren's face went white as a sheet, and Nathan dropped his coffee. Cursing, Abigail stormed out with them, barking orders into her phone. My little message had done its job. They were rattled. And rattled people make mistakes. The plan was simple but terrifying. I'd walk back into my old mansion, the one I'd given Lauren, and confront them. Tom had rigged the house with tiny recording devices, hidden in the chandelier, behind picture frames, even in the kitchen clock. Ellen, the bed and breakfast owner, wasn't thrilled. "You're walking into a lion's den, Eleanor," she said, her hands on her hips. "They tried to kill you once. What's stopping them now?" I looked at her, my voice steady. "They think they've won. That's my advantage." Clara drove me to the mansion that evening, parking a block away. I wore a simple gray coat, my hair tucked under a scarf, like I was just another old lady out for a walk. But my heart was pounding as I slipped through the front gate. My old key still working. Inside, the house felt like a stranger's, new art on the walls. Lauren's perfume lingering in the air. I settled into my favorite armchair, the one James and I used to share on quiet evenings, and waited. The ticking of the clock felt like a countdown. When Lauren and Nathan walked through the door, their faces were a picture I'll never forget. Lauren screamed, a raw, jagged sound, clutching Nathan's arm. He froze, his keys dangling from his hand, staring at me like I was a ghost. "Hello, darlings," I said, my voice calm, almost cheerful. "How was your meeting with Abigail? I hope you didn't sign away my fortune just yet." "Mom," Nathan stammered, his face pale. You're supposed to be dead?" I finished, tilting my head. "Yes." I read the headlines. Eleanor Ramsey, fashion mogul, lost in tragic hiking accident. Very touching. The donations to the Heart Disease Foundation were a nice touch. Lauren found her voice. but it was shaky. How are you here?" Before I could answer, a small figure appeared in the hallway. Ethan, in pajamas with little dinosaurs. Rubbing his eyes. "Who's that lady?" he asked. His voice sleepy. My heart broke. He didn't know me. His own grandmother. I smiled at him, keeping my voice soft. "I'm someone who cares about you. Ethan, go back to bed, sweetheart." The nanny, a young woman named Sarah who'd been hired through one of Abigail's shell companies, hesitated but led him upstairs. I turned back to Lauren and Nathan. My smile gone. "You hid my grandson from me. You pushed me off a cliff. And for what? $2 billion? Nathan tried to play it cool. Stepping forward. "Mom, you're confused. The fall, your heart condition, it's messed with your head. We were trying to protect you." I laughed, a sound that surprised even me with its bitterness. Protect me? By forging medical reports? By filming me like I'm some senile old woman? I pulled a folder from behind the chair cushion. The photos Tom had taken and the documents I'd found in the study. "Let's talk about the Ramsey plan, shall we? The one where you swapped my heart meds to make me dizzy. The one where you paid off doctors to say I had dementia. The one where you tracked down Ethan, my son's child, to use him as your perfect little heir." Lauren's eyes widened, but she stayed silent. Nathan, though, was sweating. "You can't prove any of this," he said. That's when the front door opened, and Abigail Foster walked in. She was shorter than I'd expected, with a sharp bob and a briefcase that screamed money. "Mrs. Ramsey," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "I'm so glad you survived your little tumble. We have a lot to discuss." She sat across from me, like we were at a board meeting, not in the middle of a crime scene. "Your daughter and son-in-law made a mistake, but they were acting in your best interest. Let's find a way to resolve this quietly." I leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "Resolve it? Like you resolved the others? How many? Abigail? How many old people have you helped disappear for their families?" Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes flickered. "I provide a service," she said. "Families need access to their inheritances. I streamline the process. You, unfortunately, are complicating things." And then came the twist, the moment that turned my blood cold. Abigail opened her briefcase and pulled out a bank statement, sliding it across the coffee table. "You've been asking questions about your trust, Eleanor, questions that forced our hand. Did you know $10 million is missing from your accounts? Diverted to an offshore fund. Years ago, by someone you trusted." I stared at the statement, my mind reeling. "You're lying," I said, but my voice wavered. Abigail's smile turned cruel. "Ask your daughter. She and Nathan didn't just want your money, they were covering for me. I've been skimming your fortune since James died. And they knew, when you started sniffing around. They had no choice but to act. Push you off that cliff, or I'd expose them." Lauren broke, her voice a sob. "Mom, we didn't want to." She threatened to ruin us. To take everything. Nathan grabbed her arm, hissing, "Shut up, Lauren." But it was too late. The room filled with a new sound, boots on the hardwood. Voices shouting, "FBI, hands up." Agents poured in, guns drawn, led by a woman with a steady gaze. Agent Maria Lopez. Abigail tried to run, but she didn't get far. They had her on the floor in seconds, cuffs clicking around her wrists. Tom Rivera stepped through the chaos, nodding at me. "Nice work, Eleanor." I blinked, confused. "Tom, you're FBI," he finished, flashing a badge. "Undercover. We've been after Abigail Foster for years. Her network's been bleeding people like you dry, 25 elderly victims. All dead in accidents to line her clients' pockets." He gestured to the hidden recorders. "She just confessed to all of it. On tape." Lauren and Nathan were cuffed, their faces ashen as Agent Lopez read their rights. I stood there, holding the bank statement, the proof that my daughter had sold me out, not just for greed, but to hide their own complicity in Abigail's scheme. I looked at them, my voice quiet. "You didn't just try to kill me. You stole from your own family. And you used Ethan to cover it up." Neither of them could meet my eyes. As the agents led them away, Sarah, the nanny, brought Ethan downstairs, his small hand clutching hers. I knelt in front of him, my heart aching. "You're safe now, sweetheart," I whispered, "and you're coming home with me." That night, as the FBI hauled Lauren Nathan and Abigail Foster away in handcuffs. I stood in the doorway of my old mansion, holding Ethan's hand. His small fingers curled around mine, and his big, curious eyes looked up at me, not yet understanding the chaos that had just unfolded. I knelt down, brushing a curl from his forehead. "You're safe now, Ethan," I said softly, "and I'm going to make sure you always are." It was a promise I meant with every piece of my heart, a heart that had been broken by my daughter, but was starting to mend because of this little boy. The days that followed were a blur of police interviews, court filings, and headlines. Abigail Foster's trial was a spectacle: 25 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and racketeering. She'd built a network that preyed on people like me, elderly folks with wealth and fractured families, turning their loved ones' greed into a weapon. The evidence we'd gathered, those hidden recorders, Tom's photos, my documents, buried her. She got life in prison. No parole. Lauren and Nathan took plea deals, 20 years for her, 25 for him. They'd spend their best years behind bars, paying for what they'd done not just to me, but to Ethan, to Michael's memory, to every family they'd helped destroy. The investigation unraveled Abigail's web across Virginia, Maryland, and beyond. 15 other conspirators, corrupt lawyers, shady doctors, even a medical examiner, were arrested. They'd stolen over $150 million from vulnerable seniors, all under the guise of estate planning. Knowing I'd helped stop them felt like a small victory, a way to reclaim some of the dignity Lauren and Nathan had tried to strip from me. But the real victory was Ethan. The court process to adopt him was long, but worth every moment. Michael's old girlfriend, Ethan's mother, had passed away shortly after he did, leaving Ethan with a distant cousin who'd been paid to keep quiet. When I tracked her down, she cried, grateful someone would love Ethan the way he deserved. I brought him to my condo in Richmond, a place I'd once thought too quiet, too empty. Now it's filled with his laughter, his toy trucks scattered across the floor, his drawings taped to my fridge. At 76, I'm learning to be a mother again, this time to a grandson who calls me Nana and hugs me like I'm his whole world. Clara Thompson, the hiker who saved me, still checks in, bringing homemade cookies and stories from her mountain trails. Ellen Harper, that tough-as-nails bed and breakfast owner, has become a friend, teaching Ethan how to bake bread and sharing her wisdom about life. Tom Rivera, Agent Rivera, I should say, sends me postcards from his FBI cases, each one with a photo of another senior he's helped protect. They're my family now, not by blood, but by choice. The kind of family that shows up when you're at your lowest, that pulls you out of the bushes when the world thinks you're gone. Lauren writes to me sometimes, her letters full of apologies, excuses, claims she was trapped by Abigail's threats. I don't write back, not because I hate her, I don't. I just can't let her back into my heart. Not after what she did to Ethan, to me, to the memory of her brother. Some doors have to stay closed, and I've learned that's okay. Here's what I've learned in these 6 years since I fell off that cliff. Family isn't about who shares your blood or your last name. It's about who stands by you when the wind is howling, when the ground gives way beneath you. It's about choosing love over greed, truth over lies, every single day. Ethan knows his story, his father, Michael, who loved him fiercely in the short time he had, his mother, who gave him life, and the grandmother who fought to give him a home. He knows he's loved, not for a fortune, but for who he is. And if you're listening to this, maybe you felt that sting of betrayal, that ache of a family that wasn't what you hoped. I'm here to tell you, you're stronger than you know. You can rebuild. Find people who'll lift you up, who'll fight for you. That's the family that matters. So, share your story in the comments below. Tell me about the people who've become your family, the ones who've saved you in ways big or small. Your voice matters, and I'm listening.